We have this spare closet that we absolutely hate because it has these stupid metal racks inside of it and it's just really hard to organize things. So we're gonna build a wardrobe inside of there to make it a lot more functional. Would you like me to build you a wardrobe?
Would you please, with the cherry on top?
So the first thing that we're gonna do is take off these doors, and no, we're not gonna destroy them. We're gonna donate them to Habitat for Humanity, because in my previous video, I destroyed the pantry door and a lot of you guys were pissed off. So we're gonna go ahead and donate these. After I got the doors off, I cleaned all my crap out of the closet, then removed the old metal racks. I had to draw out the design with all the measurements from the inspiration that inspired my wife, aka Instagram, but we won't talk about that. We'll just say she's the original creator of it, and I'm just the guy building it. After all, she is my wife, and part of my job as a husband is to make her happy. So why not spend the next 3 weeks of my life building her a complicated Instagram-inspired built-in that ends up costing me around $1,700 bucks. After cutting all the cabinet base pieces to size, I put a bunch of pocket holes into them, then started putting them together. This is just the cabinet frame that's going to hold the drawers, and since they're going to be inset, I need to build a face frame. So I cut down a bunch of pieces of fine finished pine boards, and the measurements needed to be pretty exact here because the drawer faces are going to slide inside of this, and if it's off by even just a millimeter, the drawers won't open and close. To put the face frame together, I just pocket holed all the pieces, then used the clamp to hold it down while I screwed it together. I then repeated the same process over and over until I had a face frame that looked like this. And to connect it to the cabinet frame, I just used some pocket holes and screwed it in. I then ripped down a bunch of these 2x4s so I can have a mounting spot for my drawer slides. These will allow the drawer slides to slide in and out of the cabinet without hitting the face frame. So I got the cabinet frame all finished up, and I'm not going to paint any of the inside because it's not going to be seen. So now what I'm going to do is take this down and start to build the drawers. This is where things get a lot more precise, and if you make one wrong measurement, you're screwed. Making a cabinet drawer is kind of like building a box, except the measurements need to be pretty exact and it also needs to be square. Before putting the cabinet drawers together, we need a way to install the bottom. To do so, I need to cut a dado into each board that's just over 1/4 of an inch thick. This will allow the bottom of the drawer to slide into the frame. I'll show you how that works in a second. The last step before putting the drawers together is to cover up the exposed plywood edges, and we do so by installing some of this iron-on edge banding that you can pick up on Amazon. If you end up buying some, make sure you get the more expensive kind because the cheap kind ends up coming off over time, and you want something of high quality, especially when you're putting in all this work into building a custom cabinet. After edge banding and sanding all the pieces down, it's finally time to make some boxes. This is 1/2 inch plywood, so I'm using 1 inch 18 gauge finish nails to put it together, then putting some wood glue in between all the dados and sliding in the bottom piece like this. Then capping it off with the last piece and finishing it off with a bunch more nails until it looks like this, which will be the drawer that holds these. These are Camel City Mill socks, and they're made out of merino wool to prevent sweating. They have double-plated nylon in the heel and in the toe, and have compression right here to make it feel like you're walking on a cloud. You want to know something crazy? Sometimes I'll wear these socks inside of a work boot for over 12 hours, and my feet or my socks don't smell. After a few months, my old socks end up looking like this, but Camel City Mill has a 10-year guarantee, so you'll never have holes in your socks again. They're also made right here in the good old USA. Go support them, get yourself a pair. I'm gonna link them in the description below. Now that the drawers are all finished up, it's time to install them onto the cabinet. First, I'm installing the drawer slides with this really cool Kreg jig that I picked up at Lowe's. I'll put it in the description below. I then flip the Kreg jigs around, set the drawer on top of them, then align the drawer slides and just screw it in. Then basically repeated the same process over and over until all the drawers were installed. Now that we have the drawers made and installed onto the cabinet, it's time to start making the faces so we can see how this thing's finally going to turn out. I cut the cabinet faces 1/4 inch smaller than the actual frame, then edge banded all the edges. We then picked up some of this quarter round and cut it down to size and basically framed around all the drawer faces to try and make it look a little more classy. I used super glue and little 18 gauge finish nails to secure it onto the face. Then used some wood filler and filled in the nail holes and all the seams. We got the first cabinet face made up and it's looking really nice. I'm going to use a paint stir stick and put it on the bottom right here as a spacer. And let's see how it looks. Boom. Look at that. Really nice. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing over and over until we have all the faces made up. Then we'll get them installed, then take them back off so then we can finally paint them. Installing the faces was pretty easy. I just basically put a spacer in between each one and then just screwed them in. I then took all the drawers back out and brought them outside and sanded the crap out of them to get them prepped up for paint. So the paint can stick properly, we primed the whole cabinet with this Kilz primer. Then started painting all the drawers with this enamel cabinet and furniture paint. We normally spray our cabinets when we build them, but since it wasn't a lot of paint, we decided to just roll them instead, which I honestly regret because it left a little bit of streak marks and I'm not super happy with it, but it still looks pretty good, so we're just gonna leave it as is. So it's been a couple of hours since we painted all the drawer faces and they're nice and dry. I love the way they're looking. Now we're gonna go ahead and install them back onto the cabinet and see the way it looks. I got all the faces on and it looks amazing. My wife picked up these pulls right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and install them so then we can finally see the way that this thing looks. Once we finished installing the handles, we were finally finished up with the bottom part of the cabinet, and now it was time to build the top part of the cabinet. We decided to prime all the pieces before screwing them together, just to make it a little easier to paint later on. After letting them dry for a couple hours, we brought them into the garage and started to screw them together. We then lifted it into place to make sure it fits properly, then brought it back down so we can paint it. We painted 2 layers onto everything, then let it sit overnight before bringing it into the closet. This is the second floor of my house, so we took some drawers out to make it a little easier to carry. But it was still pretty damn heavy to bring up a flight of stairs. I'm glad we didn't nick anything. I then screwed the top into place, put all the drawers back in, then carefully put the top part of this built in where it goes, which was honestly the hardest part. Before installing the doors, I had to install the hinges, then I brought them up to install them, and this happened. Somehow, without realizing it, I made the cabinet doors way too big, and when I opened them, they hit the old door opening. And my only solution was really just to cut them down to size and reframe them, which was honestly a really easy fix. Much better. Since I made the door smaller, the top part of the cabinet would be exposed, so I just used the extra pieces to fill it in. We got the problem fixed. Now the doors open really nicely and they don't hit the top. What we're gonna do next is build some cubbies on the side of the cabinet, maybe to put our shoes and things like that. And we're also gonna remove these brackets right here for the old door hinges, just so it doesn't look like an old door opening. To make things look a little more seamless, I just ripped out the old door frame and added a new molding. This made it look so much better and not so much like an old door frame, which really helps everything come together a lot better and just look a lot more finished. I then went over all the nail holes and seams with some paintable caulk. I had to use my oscillating tool to cut out the old molding so I can fit these shoe cubbies into place. So now that we finished building the cabinets, we love the way that they're turning out, but we realized that it's really dark inside of there, so we picked up these lights from Lowe's that are adjustable, and we're gonna install them up there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna steal the power from this light right here so we can run it all off the same switch. Got the holes made. Now I gotta crawl up into the attic to go look for the holes so I can try to run the wire through. I haven't been in here in a long time. So I'm in the attic and I think that this is our spot right here. Oh, got you. All right, there the holes are right there. So I gotta try to figure out how the heck I'm gonna crawl all the way over there and get the lights in. So we'll figure that out. But for now, I have to find where the fan wiring is and then tap into it and just bring it right there. It was pretty hard to record this process, but I basically just ran the wires inside of the holes, then connected them right there. Came back downstairs, wired up the lights, then put them into place. We had the breaker off, so it was kind of dark the entire time, but once we flipped the breaker back on, thankfully, the lights worked. We also installed a rod for hangers and painted the entire entrance with gloss white paint. My son then came over to check out the lights and he loved them. But then it was finally time to clean this thing up so we could fill it with our clothes. But thanks for watching, and huge thanks to Camel City Mill for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to get yourself a pair in the description below.